Hey guys, it's been a while since I put together a video, so I thought I would put one together for you today, showcasing a composition that I've really been enjoying lately. And while doing so, I'm going to try to tell you about Miles Morales as a character, uh, elemental team compositions, and then some of my preferred synergies because I've just had a few questions about those things. I figure that if somebody asks, there's been more people who wondered the same thing. So, enough of that. Let's talk about Miles Morales. The thing that makes Miles Morales great is his high voltage lines. Um, but the thing that I hear the most about Miles is that when I use him, I'm always out of EP. Well, the reason for that is kind of twofold. The first thing that I see happening a lot with Miles, and the temptation is real. You put down his high voltage lines, and he has his bash and his slam that self synergize. It does great damage. Well, I'm already here on this character. I'm just going to wear him out with Miles. That's the temptation because it works, but it does run you out of energy. And once he's out of energy, he's not able to help the rest of the team do the damage that they can do. And I think that's where he really shines is as an enabler. So we're going to discuss how to use him in that fashion, which is the way that I use him, and he's very effective that way. So what you don't want to do is put down those high voltage lines and just spam his abilities. The other thing that runs him out of EP or that keeps him from regenerating EP is that the AI is very lazy with Miles. The AI will wander off into the background and get into a staring contest with hand ninjas or Ultron bots. He'll sit there, walk around real slow and sneaky, and not do anything. And then you switch back to him wanting to reapply your high voltage lines and find that he's on the back side of the map staring at an Ultron bot. It's kind of aggravating, honestly. I wish that he was just a little bit more aggressive and stayed put a little bit better. So one answer to that is in one of his abilities, or the way I use it. His bash attack will teleport him onto an enemy. So if you teleport onto the boss, that's a great way to keep him in the fight. Or even if you use his slam and just get him on top of a boss, he will generally stay put a little bit better once he's in that fight and solidly into it and not backed out at all. Uh, but once I do get him in the fight, high voltage lines are down. Now it's somebody else's turn to start piping out some damage. The reason that high voltage lines work so well for Miles is that he has a bash and a slam attack, which is giving him a catalyst synergy. Well, we can also get that very same synergy with any bash, charge, or slam attack, and we can get a surge synergy from a launch. So any of those four synergy tags will give you outstanding results on top of high voltage lines. So you want to build your team with that in mind when you got Miles Morales. Okay, so for an example rotation, what I might do, I might put down the high voltage lines with Miles. I might use his bash attack to get him teleported in, or his slam, get him into that fight. Maybe I'll switch to Captain America, do the team buff, which has a launch tag. So even though the buff doesn't do damage, well, guess what? It does damage when there's high voltage lines present. At least it does the synergy damage, which is a pretty solid number. I might then shield dash with Cap. Well, maybe now I'll switch to Black Panther, do a Vibranium Bash. Well, now it's probably time to get back to Miles. Reapply those high voltage lines, switch off to Blade, use his Bash attack. A couple of his Bash attacks, which is where he uses his gun to fire the stakes. And it's, back to another character. And I basically just try to keep the high voltage lines on the ground. That way everybody has their shock ability attribute. And then just keep those synergizing attacks flowing over the top of them. And as long as you keep switching characters, you're going to use that EP more evenly, and you're going to find that you have a lot less resource issues when you do that. It also kind of throws off the enemy because they generally target or put the primary focus onto the character you're controlling, and when you're switching around a lot, their focus doesn't shift as fast as you do. So it gives you some opportunity to kind of take advantage of the fact that they don't change their focus constantly. Uh, but you will have to, as I just did with Colossus there, you will have to basic attack enemies on occasion to rebuild your EP. I usually just get somebody stunned and then switch between the low characters and spam light attacks on a stunned enemy. And that's what I found is generally the most effective way to rebuild EP in this group right here. So when it comes to elementally charged compositions, I find that the more members of the team that can be elementally charged, generally the better off you are. I've found that in my experience, at least the person doing the charging plus two more who can be charged. You might throw in a fourth member that can't be, that has to bring some other utility or a skill that does great damage on top of uh, the high voltage lines. But as a rule, I want as many people who can be charged as possible. I don't want to use ISO to charge them with elements. I want to use the character who can charge them. That way I can use all their ISO slots to build damage on their own, and then when I elementally charge them, I'm getting a bonus on top of that. So that's giving you the greatest damage potential. And when you charge everyone on the team, it's not only the one character that's trying to paralyze or freeze the enemy. Well, now that they're elementally charged, everyone's attacks are trying to freeze or paralyze the enemy. And that's the reason that you're seeing these enemies stunned so much. What's happening is they're just being hit with so many shock attacks that they're getting paralyzed, and then there's so much synergy damage happening that they're going straight from paralyzed to stunned pretty much instantly. Um, and that's what I have found is more or less the most effective way to whittle down bosses in this game. I mean, it just chunks them out uh, pretty nasty. This comp right here, I have run everything in the game with them with a fully offensive loadout, which you'll see the ISO at the end of the video. And the only time they had any trouble at all was in the Phoenix Aftermath. I did die a couple times going through that with them, and especially had a little bit of trouble with Phoenix herself the very last stage. But otherwise, they were able to pretty much just, um, YOLO, go all in and just destroy everything. They are a lot of fun to play that way. Now, the thing I was going to mention too before I run out of time here is that the synergies that you get that go on top of those high voltage lines, which was your charge, your bash, your slam, and your launch, they also synergize with each other. If you look at the synergies you get from those attacks and how they interact, you're also getting a lot of shockwave, surge, and catalyst at the same time when you have all those attacks going on. So that's kind of when people ask my favorite synergy, it's not really one synergy. I like to get a lot of bash and a lot of element and then throw a little bit of slam and launch in with it, and you just get synergy going off all over the place. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I kind of just threw it together, but have a good one.